Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Patreon podcast. This week I wanted to talk about good habits and how it's never really too late to start building those. I think I've mentioned this in the past, but one of my favorite quotes is, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time to do it is right now. And, I've been thinking about this a lot, both with like my creative work and both me as a physical person. And, there's a lot of things that I want to change and improve and grow. And I feel that, oh, I'm getting too old to change. I don't want to try something new or anything like that. And it's like the whole point isn't that, you're set in your ways or whatever. You want to always find those improvements and optimizations and areas for growth that are available to you. And I can give two good examples, one from personal life and one from my creative life. For my creative life, specifically, it's more about working with code and making games. Color Jumper and Death Drives a Bus and Pandemonium and some of the other ones that I've made in the past have been huge piles of spaghetti, which is to say big messes. And the game that I'm working on right now, I'm trying very, very consciously and deliberately to ensure that the code that I write is clean. And this is coming off of a couple guides and a couple kind of books that I've read relating to not only clean code, but viewable code and human readable code. And that's something I want to get into maybe in the next episode. But through that, I've been building tons of really good habits on just constructing code that is way more, not only flexible, but also way easier to read and way easier to understand. And that has been a huge boon for me when building this game. Because really the whole reason why I got into game development is because I had a couple ideas for games that I wanted to do. And I have tried to make them a couple times now, I think 3 times. And every time I get to a point and I bounce off because the game just gets too complex for me to really kind of understand or kind of hold in my head like I would need to do. But with all of the good habits that I've been building and all of the growth that I've had while making this one project, I think that I finally have the knowledge and the expertise to approach and resolve the game that I really want to make, like the game that got me into making games in the first place. So it's really exciting. I really want to do that. And this also applies for me with music as well, where a long time ago, I made everything in the piano roll. Basically, I input all the notes by clicking and dragging, and I rarely played piano. And then when I started streaming, really kind of specifically when I started streaming, I forced myself to input most of the notes with the piano, so I'm actually physically playing. And this, for me anyway, this gives me the really good habit of basically practicing and allowing me to try new things and grow and evolve as a pianist. But it also allows me to be more expressive with the way that I approach music. Because if you add stuff with the keyboard and mouse, it's usually very kind of static and robotic because everything's snapping to the grid. Everything's like the velocity or the loudness of the note is usually kind of very similar. And when you play, nothing's perfect, especially when I play, but it offers that kind of human element that I really love in the music that I make. And yeah, I go back and I fix things up and I clean things up. But the ability to have a more human experience when playing music has been really formative for me, and it's really helped me grow as an artist. And that also, when you play the piano, you make mistakes, and those mistakes can sometimes just end up in the song and improve the song. It adds like layering and complexity and some harmonic interest. So all of that has really been a huge improvement on me, because I'm building these habits. Like, I forced myself to start playing piano, and it was really, really hard initially, and it still is sometimes. I get very self-conscious when I'm streaming and I have to do a solo or something, and I don't really know what I'm doing until I get into it. And even then, it's all improvised for the most part, and I struggle with that. But I think that in the long run makes me a more flexible artist, and that's really valuable to me. From my personal life, I have been trying very hard to lose weight. When I had my surgery last year, my procedure last year, they got on my case that I was a little overweight, and just related to like the anesthetics, because they had to put me under and stuff. And after that procedure, I basically set up a plan for myself on how to lose weight, and I've stuck with it. And the really hard part for me is in two parts. I try to exercise 6 times a week, which, you get into a rhythm of what I'm actually going to do that right after I'm done recording this, but you get into a rhythm of that, and that's okay. Like that becomes part of your schedule. But the big one that really helped me, and again, I'm not a doctor. This might not work for you if you're trying to lose weight. Like, try things and see if they work. But I stopped eating before noon. I essentially did like a fast every day, or what is it called? Intermittent fasting or whatever. I don't know. For me, not eating before noon gives me essentially a bunch of free calories. Because, you have a big breakfast, and then around noon again, you're hungry again. You do that, you have your lunch, and then you maybe have a snack before dinner, and then you have dinner, and then maybe you have dessert. And it's just like, if you cut out a whole meal from that saves a lot. And for me, the first 2 or 3 months of that were really hard, really, really hard. But, I got used to it, and I never really had a big breakfast anyway. I've never really been a big, like, I've never really enjoyed breakfast. It's just one of those things that I felt like I had to have, or I needed to have to function. And I don't. It's just something that I was under the impression that I needed. And it really was just extra garbage that I was eating every day, because it was usually something like a Pop-Tart or a granola bar, or maybe some yogurt, or maybe some toast, like stuff that really wasn't really, it was calorically dense, but it didn't have a whole lot of like nutritional value. So cutting that out has helped me a lot. And I did some other things too, especially specifically related to like weight tracking and stuff. But for the most part, it's making sure that I weigh myself every day, not to see if I beat my high score or whatever. Like, I just weigh myself every day, so I have it on my Excel spreadsheet. So I have like the progress over time. I try to exercise every day. And again, the exercise isn't strenuous. It's sometimes 30 to 45 minutes on like a bike, where it's winter here. So it's a stationary bike in the basement, but when it's over 50 degrees, I try to get outside. And then I just limit my calorie intake, specifically by not eating until noon. And sometimes, like, there have been times where I'm just like, I'm not going to eat until 2 today, because maybe I had too much the couple days before, and my weight's getting high, and I try to limit my eating between like noon and 8 p.m. or 2 and 8 p.m. or something like that, and that gives me the chance to kind of catch up with the calorie burning, and that helps a lot. But the whole point is that I'm trying to build these habits, and it took a very long time for me to build those habits, but it worked, or it is working. I'm still nowhere near my goal, but winter has not helped with that. But yeah, I am very proud of the fact that my brain, my ability to change my patterns is still malleable. It's still modular. And that's kind of what I was talking about in the Infinity Loop song, The World is Modular, where it's just like, sometimes the patterns that are set up for you can be changed and should be changed. It really depends on how happy you are with those patterns. And I understand that not everything can be changed. It depends on what's within your control and what's something that you have, like, you can manage. But I feel that the things that I have focused on to try to improve are things that definitely have been just things that I was either taking the easy way to do it, or I was just ignoring it altogether, like with my weight. And I think that being more focused on those, and once you build the habit, the best part is that once you build the habit, they just become part of your routine. And then that's just part of your routine now. I know for me currently, I usually try to do my bike ride over my lunch break, but that's only because I've had the benefit of working from home, and I know in April that's going to change. I'm concerned about how I'm going to handle that, because that routine for me was like, get up, start working at 7, work until like 11:30, go on a bike ride, eat lunch at 1:30, finish my work day. And then, I kind of got all of that out of the way, and then I can work on creative things or just hang out or do whatever. But now that my schedule's changing, so will my approach to my good habits. So that's going to be a little difficult for me, but maybe I'll talk about that, or maybe I'll get an extension on my work from home thing again. That would be nice, but that's really out of my hands. Anyway, that's everything that I have for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. I really genuinely do appreciate it. I hope that you have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you in the next one. Be remarkable.